My name is Ann Savage, and I am the president of the City School District of Albany Board of Education. On behalf of the board, I welcome you to our meeting. The audio from tonight is being recorded, and the recording will be made available to the general public on our Board Docs platform. If you would like to address the board during the public comment period tonight, now is the time to sign up. There is a sign-up sheet at the back of the room on that table. That's also where you will find documents that we will be discussing tonight. There are paper copies as well as a digital device you can use to access the documents digitally if you prefer. You can also do that from your own device. If you choose to access the documents from your own device, the easiest way is from the button on the board page at albanyschools.org/BOE. We invite those of you who choose to join us as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance In addition to saying the Pledge of Allegiance, we always focus our meeting by restating the mission of the City School District of Albany, which is to work in partnership with our diverse community to engage every learner in a robust educational program designed to provide the knowledge and skills necessary for success. Superintendent Adams, do you have a report for us?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much, Madam President and members of the board. We are excited to begin the final stages of planning for the opening of our new academic building at Albany High School. We officially will move into this magnificent facility when we return from winter recess in February. Our plans for the unveiling of the new building include orientations and tours for our students before and after break. We have also planned half days for this purpose: Thursday, February 13th, Friday, February 14th, and Monday, February 24th are half days. Our students will dismiss at 11 a.m. on each of those days. We are also honored to invite all community members to join us for a ribbon cutting ceremony on Saturday, February 22nd. The ceremony will begin at 10 a.m. and will be held in the new building. We are also offering building tours that morning beginning at 8:30 a.m. If you would like to join us for a tour, we recommend that you sign up in advance as space will be limited. You may register for one of our 4 tour groups by visiting albanyschools.org/tours. We hope you will join us for this truly momentous occasion as we celebrate the completion of Phase 1 of our transformative Rebuilding Albany High School project. The State Education Department has released graduation rates for the class of 2019. Albany High School's rate held steady at 68% last school year. That equals the high school's highest rate since the state began measuring graduation under its current methodology in 2005. This is the 6th consecutive year that Albany High's graduation rate has increased or held steady. The 68% figure also represents a 36% increase over the school's lowest rate since 2005, which was 50% for the class of 2010. I would like to commend Albany High Principal Jody Comerford and her entire team of administrators, faculty, and staff for their commitment to raising achievement for all of our students. We are seeing the benefits of a consistent focus on the delivery of quality instruction, professional development, and staying the course with strategies that work for our students in engagement, high cognitive demand, and attention to the social and emotional well-being of our students. You may find more detailed information about the 2019 graduation data on our website and on the state education website. Please give Albany High School a round of applause under the leadership of Ms. Lori McKenna, our Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Instruction. I would like to congratulate our new district spelling bee champion, from Stephen and Harriet Myers Middle School 8th grader, Isaac Allen. Congratulations. Isaac correctly spelled the word galaxy to win this year's spelling bee, which was held earlier this month at Hackett Middle School. Isaac actually is a repeat winner. He was our district spelling champion in 2018, and he was also our runner-up last year. I would like to congratulate this year's runner-up from North Albany Middle School, Ayob Gidi, and Isaac and Ayob will lead our district's participants in the Capital Region Spelling Bee on February 4th at Proctor's Theater in Schenectady. They will be joined by Albany School of Humanities 6th grader Timothy Reppert and Giffen Memorial Elementary School 6th grader Jameer Hemingway and Arbor Hill Elementary School 4th grader Ezekiel Dixon. I wish them all the best of luck at Proctor's, and I also would like to commend all of our school spelling champions from throughout the entire district. I had the pleasure of attending our annual music faculty concert and art show here at Myers on Tuesday night. It was a wonderful evening with exceptional talents of our teachers on full display. The event is sponsored each year by the Albany Friends of Music as a fundraiser to support music in our schools. It is always easy to see why we have such accomplished student musicians and artists throughout our school district after enjoying the performances and creations of our teachers. I invite you to visit albanyschools.org to check out the video from that evening, and my thanks and congratulations to all of our teachers on a wonderful event. A reminder that applications are available through next Friday, January 31st, for the lottery to determine placement in our 4 elementary magnet programs for next year. The magnet lottery is for seats in kindergarten through grades 5 or 6, depending on the school. Our 4 magnet programs are Albany School of Humanities, Montessori Magnet School, Thomas O'Brien Academy of Science and Technology, and the dual language program at Delaware Community School. Magnet lottery applications are available at each of the 4 schools at albanyschools.org and at our central registration office, which is located at 75 Watervliet Avenue. Applications for our annual pre-kindergarten lottery will also be available beginning February 3rd. The pre-K lottery includes seats at all of our elementary schools, including the magnet programs, as well as all of our community-based programs. Pre-K applications will be due March 6th. The lotteries for both pre-K and the magnet programs will be held on March 18th. Please visit albanyschools.org for more information about both of these programs and opportunities. I would now like to invite Myers Middle School Principal Andrea Piper to tell us more about the great things happening here at her school, and she has several guests with her tonight.
Good evening, Board of Education members, Superintendent Adams, Assistant Superintendents Ms. McKenna and Dr. Wilson Turner, and family. It is with great enthusiasm that I am able to share the highlights and insights of Stephen and Harriet Myers Middle School. Thank you for giving the Myers leadership the opportunity to do so. I would like to introduce my team, my 2 assistant principals, Brianna Olson and Scott Thompson, and my 2 gems, the president and vice president of our SGA, Student Government Association, Egypt Barnes and Elise Pendleton. Today's presentation will be done in collaboration. Our leadership team is committed to making Myers School the flagship school we all know it is. Our school vision is in alignment with the City School District, and that we will be a school of excellence with caring relationships and engaging learning experiences that provide equitable opportunities for every student, the whole child. Our mission is to develop and support successful student academic achievement while fostering respect, responsibility, and self-empowerment. We know together, with a dedicated staff, parental involvement, and community partnerships, we can and will provide a culturally diverse learning environment that enables all students to reach their fullest potential. What resonates in our mission statement are the 3 B's that we consistently message throughout each day. fostering respect, responsibility, and cultivating a culturally rich environment where students are safe and feel safe to express who they are. Our goals mirror what we have set forth in our set for 2019-2020. To improve the culture and climate of the building, increase academic achievement scores in ELA and math, ultimately across all content areas, increase the overall attendance rate across the school, provide actionable feedback to the entire school community in order to nurture both academic and social emotional success. Egypt is going to share what makes Myers Middle School special.
What makes Myers Middle School special is diversity of school community. For example, we have students who are different in their own way, but at Myers Middle School, everybody is one family. Academic and behavioral intervention programs and services. At Myers, students at any level receive the services that they need to succeed. For example, enrichment, honors, E&L, and special education classes are available. Highly qualified and dedicated faculty and staff. Our teachers do whatever they can to make sure their students work to the best of their ability. Our administrators do the best that they can to represent our school. Extended day programs. POW has different opportunities for students to participate in, depending on their interests. For example, they offer cosmetology, computers, and yoga. Outstanding music programs. There are many opportunities for students to participate in, as far as band, orchestra, chorus, and school musicals. Belief and commitment to our school community. Everybody is dedicated to make Myers Middle School a better place. We work together and persevere. Student participation in sports and after-school activities. There are a variety of sports activities and clubs. We will introduce new clubs such as step, dance, and more.
Thank you, Egypt. Myers Middle School demographics consist of the following. Our largest demographic being African American with 46.71%. White is our second largest with 20.87%. Hispanic at 18.46%. Mixed at 7.7%. And then Asian at 5.63%. Our special education enrollment is 17.5% with our L population at 8.67%. We have one team of 6th grade, UAlbany, with 102 students, two teams of 7th grade, RPI and Union, with 224 students, and two teams of 8th grade, Sienna and St. Rose, with 216 students, in addition to 5 self-contained special education classrooms. Staff demographics. 3 administrators, 1 school coordinator, 1 head of security, 73 teaching staff, 1 library media specialist, 6 support staff, 2 nurses, 4 clerical support, and 1 school resource officer. Ms. Olson will now share our set focus and highlights.
Our first SEP focus is to increase math and ELA academic achievement. The administrative team, as well as district leaders, have been conducting weekly walkthroughs to provide meaningful feedback to teachers. We have conducted 70 walkthroughs to date. Grade level teams, as well as Encore and the Foreign Language Department, are actively using data cycles to develop goals and strategies for students. This sanctioned time each week is also a time for teachers to share best practices. Our next area of focus is to increase student engagement and positive behaviors. We are continuously monitoring our disproportionality related to discipline referrals and suspension. Our building uses a positive behavior interventions and supports model, PBIS, to ensure that we are meeting the behavioral needs of all students. Our next area of focus is to improve student attendance. Our attendance committee meets once per month with our district-wide attendance teacher. We recently formed a subcommittee that will meet weekly to progress monitor attendance interventions. In each of these areas of focus, we are using the district dashboard to make database decisions and to inform next steps.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. Mr. Thompson will share our successes.
We've had several successes thus far at Myers. From an academic standpoint, multi-tiered systems of support have been implemented. Specifically, we use testing data to provide varied levels of academic support to improve student achievement. During the first marking period, we had 44% of our students achieve honor roll status. From a social-emotional standpoint, PBIS is currently being utilized at Myers. We have seen our team grow substantially since the beginning of the school year. We have recognized students for making positive choices with a zero referral celebration, as well as a teen night with other events to come. We've also utilized the second step character education curriculum to help foster a positive behavior that ensures the development of an environment that is conducive and safe for learning for all of our students.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. As a school, we recognize that we have a number of challenges. We are highlighting what we believe are our top 3 at present, starting with school climate and culture. How do we ensure that our scholars' behavior does not continue to interfere with instruction and promoting a positive learning environment? To ensure that we are cultivating a climate of the changing needs of our students, these are our next steps. Continue to build social emotional skills through the second step curriculum. Provide ongoing town hall meetings with PBIS, reteach lessons. Develop a collaboration with Sweethearts and Heroes. Work towards a designation as a no place for hate school. Ensure consistency in our behavioral expectations, and align staff roles and responsibilities to promote student successes. Our next challenge is a solution-focused challenge. So how do we empower our stakeholders, students, staff, and families to be solution-focused? To ensure we are involving all of our stakeholders, we are in the process of doing the following. Increase parent communication on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. Provide daily and weekly communication with staff, including highlights, areas of focus, and data trends. And empower student voice as leaders in the building. The third challenge, Elise, do you want to share with us how we empower student voice?
Student Government Association, SGA, is when students come together to share their thoughts about the school. There are 18 students on the SGA and 6 who were elected by their peers. The SGA meets weekly after school to discuss plans. We hold bake sales after school on Fridays to fundraise. To date, our focus has been on planning additional after-school clubs, fundraising money goes to school events, funding for field trips and gift cards for raffles, fun activities like dances, a suggestion box to make the school a better place, and for the remainder of the school year, we will focus on respect of students towards teachers and school spirit and dedication.
Thank you, Elise. So I'm gonna step back because that was our communication challenge. The next challenge is the solution-based or solution-focused challenge. So again, how do we empower our stakeholders, students, staff, and families to be solution-focused? So we are in the process of doing the following: hosting a data cafe meeting with the building leadership team to review, analyze, and create plans based on student, staff, and family survey results, and conduct inquiry and focus groups for students, staff, and parents. Are there any questions?
So normally we don't do questions at this point because I know, unfortunately, we have so many questions that we would eat our entire meeting by taking them up, because we really appreciate your being here, all of you, especially our student representatives. It's great to have you here. Thank you for coming. And I know that we often do have follow-up questions, which we will feed to you through the superintendent. Okay, thank you all so much for being
Yes,
here. We
thank
really
you very much
appreciate
for
you
having us.
That concludes the superintendent's report.
So this brings us to the time of our meeting that we take comment from the public. Tonight there is nobody signed up for public comment. While no one has no one has signed up today, we do want to remind you that we invite members of the public to share their thoughts on the decisions we are facing, both here at our meetings and by phone, email, or postal mail. Our contact information is available on the district website at albanyschools.org/BOE. So that moves us expeditiously to the next part of our agenda, which is the part we call routine consent. Routine consent is the part of the meeting where we approve routine matters for the school district. These include things like contracts, field trips, personnel matters, and the like. We, each board member, reviews each of these carefully, and we vote on them with no discussion. That allows us to use our meeting time more efficiently. Nonetheless, each board member has the option to set aside any routine consent item in order to require a separate discussion and a separate vote on that item. So with that introduction, I will now entertain a motion to adopt the routine consent agenda. Ms. Wilson, may I have a second? Dr. Chatour, are there any set-asides? Ms. Mann.
So the set-aside that I'm looking at is 23 and 22.
And just give me the title so we make sure that we're on the same page.
The high school field trip and the ROTC field trip.
Okay. And are there any other set-asides? Dr. Chatour.
To set aside number 19, Angela Tatum Wealth Education Exchange.
Are there any other set-asides? So all in favor of it? Oh, I'm sorry, Hassan, I didn't see you. Mr. El-Manyawi.
I'd like to set aside a few, but just put it as a group.
Okay.
So 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
19 had already been set aside. So 13 is the Albany Barn, 15 Alex James, 16 the Capitol Rep, 17 Eugene O'Neill, 18 Siobhan Sanders, 19 was already set aside, and 20, which is Route 3D. Yes? Did I have them right? Any further set-asides? All in favor of the routine consent agenda, less the items already set aside? That is unanimous. So let's do these numerically. So first, I'm going to ask. Excuse me. First, we're going to do 19 because it was double set aside. So I want to set that one aside first. So may I have a motion for number 19, Angela Tatum, Ms. Wilson, seconded by Ms. Smith. Is there any discussion? Dr. Chatour?
I just wanted to call out to this particular one because it talks about how we are using community school funding to empower our families in becoming better at managing their own money and money savvy, which in turn they can translate to their kids. And in this day and age when students are being overwhelmed with debt, with educational debt, this is a great step in the right direction. So I just want to make a call out to that.
Any further discussion on this item? Ms. Smith.
Just only on this one and another that these are at the Edmund O'Neill Middle School, and so I'm just particularly happy to see those programs coming out of that school. So kudos to you all.
Any further conversation? All in favor of number 19, Angela Tatum? That is unanimous. Now I'm going to take the group that was set aside by Mr. El-Manyawi, less 19, so that'd be 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 20. May I have a motion to adopt those? Ms. Wilson, second by Mr. El-Manyawi. Is there any discussion? Mr. El-Manyawi.
So I wanted to just note that these were all fantastic little programs, and they're all very art-focused, which is something that I really appreciate. I did have a question regarding the grouping of them because they all didn't seem to have kind of a hard schedule. They basically, in the contract, it would say something like the schedule is going to be based on, I can pull it up, hang on. I just wanted to see a little bit more clarification about how many days during the semester it was going to be, and see just a little bit more structure in terms of, is this a weekly program, is this a monthly program?
Mrs. Adams.
Madam President, Member El-Manyawi, so I'll start with Albany Barn. That one is meeting once a week. If you look on at Alex James, that's the pre-K to 5th grade students meeting once a week.
So I'm going to
The theater piece, it's providing after school. It's an after school program with the PBIS workshops. With the 3rd through 5th grade students, it would be after school. That frequency would be determined based on the schedule of the school. So each of them would be individual, so there would be a structure for them once or twice a week, and that would be determined at the specific school based on their schedule.
Any further questions about that? Oh, Ms. Wilson.
Not specifically that, but the group
Yes, that's fine. Ms. Wilson, microphone, please.
Thank you so much. And I learned to wait to hear what everyone else set aside because I had the same set-asides for the same reason, which I do want to offer my kudos. I do think all of these are impressive, especially the for the reasons that Hassan mentioned, but also the wellness for staff at Edmund J. O'Neill. I thought that was outstanding also. And perhaps there could be a modification to the form so we could see just at a glance, like weekly, 6 weeks, or that could be something that could be modified in the future.
Ms. Smith?
However, I really think that it's important to let the school determine that, and I'm not sure they always know, and I'm just, so I think that is certainly as much information as can be provided is great, but I also respect that the school has to go back and, like especially with parents, availability of what's the good time for parents to be there. So I just want to exercise some caution to not get too into the details.
That's true too. It could be barring it being approved when they want to establish this frequency. Mm-hmm.
Ms. Krejci?
I think if I can sort of reflect off what Ms. Wilson said, she's not necessarily looking for that form to say every Tuesday from 5:30 to 6:30, but she's looking for this person will provide 6 one-week sessions in the evenings. Something more like that? If necessary, just more of a general when and where, not exact.
So I think what I'm hearing is a sense of the board's role is to ensure that we're getting good value for the contract. The school's role is to decide how to make that work with the school community. So I think we're all pretty consistently understanding the differences there. Is everybody now comfortable to vote on this one? All in favor of that group of contracts? That is unanimous. Ms. Mann, can we take the next two as a group, or
No,
would you
they're
like
two
to them each
separate
separately?
things.
Okay.
Yep.
So may I get a motion on the Albany High Canada field trip? Ms. Krejci, seconded by Ms. Smith. Is there any discussion? We'll start with you, Ms. Mann.
So I thought it was important to just bring to our attention, here's a trip that's happening, we're chartering a bus, et cetera. And I think that we've done some work, or I think Cabinet has done some work in terms of tightening up how we monitor the funds that we receive from families and make sure that they get to where they need to be. Does that make sense, how I just kind of phrased it? All right. So I just wanted to, we have a tighter way of ensuring that the dollars get to where they need to get to for field trips. Okay.
Thank you. Any further commentary on this field trip? Ms. Krejci.
Another nice thing that I really liked about this field trip is it really spelled explicitly, these are the learning standards and this is how this trip will meet them. As a board member, I really like to see it spelled out for me like that. And I liked that the students are being expected to journal on their trip to have some sort of artifact of their learning.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the Albany High Canada field trip? That is unanimous. And can I get a motion for the Albany High JROTC trip to Florida? Ms. Wilson, and seconded by Dr. Chator. Is there any discussion? Ms. Main.
So I know it's a small number. I think there are 12 students that are going to be heading out to Daytona Beach. And I'm sure that there's been already conversation happening with Sergeant Erickson and the two other chaperones that are attending. Major, forgive me, Major. So my thought, my comment is, I don't know how many female cadets are attending, but going a further distance, I think a part of me is just thinking that if we have more than one or two female cadets that are attending, that it would be helpful to have perhaps another female chaperone.
It is my understanding that one of the other officers that works with the high school is female and will be attending, but we can verify that.
Okay, so there'd be 2 male and 2 female? Or there are 2
One female. There's one female.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor of this contract, of this field trip? That is unanimous, and that brings us to the end of our routine consent agenda. So that brings us to the end of our routine consent agenda. That which brings us next to my favorite part, the policy agenda, where I get to turn the microphone over to Dr. Chator.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Today we have for discussion 3 policies. Two of them are minor modification, and one was a complete overhaul. So the first one is 8505, which is charging for school meals. This policy was completely revised since now, as per the community eligibility provisions, the district provides 1 free breakfast and lunch for each student. So the old policy was no longer relevant. So it has been rewritten to reflect what current practice is. Discussion item number 2 is 9180, staff use of electronic devices. This was revised to remove gender-specific pronouns and to specify that personal devices should only be used on the district's network to conduct district business. Also, it's now mentioned in policy that access to the network is prohibited when the staff leaves district employee, even though it's it should be common sense, but now it's specified in the policy. 9260 is conditional appointment, student safety. This policy was again revised to remove gender-specific pronouns and to also include the term emergency conditional appointment, which is always the practice. Any discussion?
Seeing none, as we usually do, we will have these before the board for adoption at our next board meeting in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
So that brings us to the next discussion item, which is the calendar change for this year, for the current academic year. I will also draw the attention to the members of the public that are here that the board is not anticipated to take any further action at this meeting. We generally front load our meetings with all actions taken early in the meeting, and while it's not impossible that something unexpected might happen, we normally would not take any more actions. So the first topic tonight, the 2019-20 calendar changes. Ms. Bechtel.
Good evening. Good evening, Board of Education. Is that on? I have Jody. Is it on? Yeah. Okay, thank you. There we go. Jody Comerford's joining me tonight. Jody sits on the calendar committee with me, and I asked her if she'd like to come by and give me some moral support. Anywho, we are going to start with the revisions to the 2019-2020 calendar. Oops. As you know, we're moving into the Albany High new wing right around that February break. We really are compelled to provide staff and want to provide staff with time to make that move. Also to make students or to help students orient to the new building and do that in a really targeted fashion. In order to achieve this, Cabinet discussed having 3 half-days, 2 before the February break and 1 after the February break in order to make that happen. It's a bit of an anomaly, but that's the direction that we would like to take. In addition, we have discussed the election days that are coming up. As you know, on November the 5th, the PD day, we had over 500 half-day absences as staff exercised their right to vote, which of course we support. We have 2 primary election days, one on April 28th and one on June the 23rd. The April 28th recommendation is to have a half-day for all students. It would be reflective of each building's dismissal time. So if you are at 2:30 school, you are done at 11:30, 3:30 school, you're done at 12:30. And we would have that for students in K-12. On June the 23rd, the recommendation is a half-day for K-8 and a flex schedule for 9 through 12 due to a conflict with Regents exams. And I've already discussed with Ms. Comerford, and her group will figure out a way to have those duties divided up between the 2 half-days. I did want to sort of preempt, because I suspect I will get this question, what are we going to do about lunch? And I've spoken to Lisa Finkenbinder, our food manager, and at the elementary level, we will have no issues at all with having the children have lunch before they leave. It'll be like breakfast and then lunch kind of quick after, but they will get their 2 meals. And then the recommendation at the secondary level, or the plan actually for the secondary level, would be to serve a hearty breakfast. Because of the way the periods of the day work and kids are assigned a period for lunch, it makes it really complex to try to include that in any kind of reasonable fashion. So that was the plan we worked out with that. So if you would like to discuss, I'll stop there.
So board colleagues, this is very unusual, and now I'm very loud. This is very unusual for us to make mid-year calendar changes. I think this may be the first time in my experience as a board member that we have done this. Nonetheless, there are very valid and good reasons that we are brought to this for this year. So as you think about this, if you have any questions, let's ask them. As always, I ask that people prioritize their questions. We're going to do one at a time and then go around again. We're going to start with Ms. Krejci.
So my question is, what do you mean, can you be more specific as to what you mean by a flex schedule for the high school on June 23rd?
Do you want to chime in? Sure.
So we have our proctoring schedule for Regents exams, so we can take and divide our staff for a morning assignment and PM assignment on that day. So it's not a huge Regents day, and we can take, there's only a morning exam actually, so we can take and divide staff to either have the morning or the afternoon off.
Sorry, you said there's only, so some students would come in the morning and some students would come in the afternoon, or all students would just, students will just come in the morning?
They only come in the morning, but you'll have students who have extended time for E&L accommodations, special ed, 504 accommodations, so they could potentially have till 3 o'clock.
Okay, so if I understand now, it's most students would be there from 8 to 12:30, no.
The only students who attend are students who are taking the pertinent test for that day.
Oh,
This
I see.
is in Regents Week.
Oh, I understand. Okay, gotcha. So the only high school kids in the building are the kids taking Regents exams, and they might be there longer than a half day if they need that time to finish the exam. Thank you. Got it.
Ms. Wilson?
I was curious, would after, by the way, hello. Would we cancel aftercare programs that day? Or would they amend their schedule, like anyone with an after-school?
So we don't have after-school activities on Regents days. Oh, sorry.
The voter days. We have not yet discussed that with our big providers that come in. We will certainly do so. If they usually are pretty accommodating. You know, there may be some challenges in terms of who's left in those buildings, though, and that's expected to be there staff-wise. So I think we might have to do a little bit more exploration around that. If we can do it, we will do it.
I understand.
I will say that traditionally, I believe, I don't know if it's every school, but many schools on those half days at the end of the year, the aftercare programs do run from the end of the half day till their normal pickup time. At least some of them do. So that it's not an unknown thing. So I would say only that we should know that one way or the other pretty soon, so that when we can announce it to the parents. Ms. Smith, did you have a question? Okay. Anyone over here? Mr. Elmanyawi.
My question is regarding the 3 half-days in February. Are they going to be back-to-back? And kind of just to piggyback off of Tabitha's question about the after-school programs, what happens on those days with the after-school programs?
There wouldn't be after-school program. Are you talking about the high school?
HS move dates.
No, the
There's
students
nothing-
would be dismissed on those 3 half-days. And they are the 13th and 14th of February, and whatever the Monday is that we come back, which I think might be the...
So let me interrupt here. It's the Thursday, Friday before the break, then we come back, and then the Monday, the 24th is a half day. For the high school, there's no after-school care. However, if there are specific activities that are happening for students, then we would make those arrangements. We have to get a little bit closer to see what is going to be available with regard to if you're speaking about athletics and how that impacts with the high school, then absolutely we would be able to work through that. For example, if there's a game or a tournament somewhere in a different location, of course our students would be able to participate. So those things we would be able to work through that.
Any additional questions? So this is currently a discussion item. We will formally adopt these changes in 2 weeks, but it's certainly, I don't believe there's any hesitation about these changes. I know that some of the PR has already gone out at the high school level, at least helping people get ready. I do think it's something, actually, I rarely do this, but I do wonder if we ought not to vote tonight. Yeah, because there's not a lot of time. That doesn't give our community much time to react to it. The drawback is that the community doesn't get enough time to react and give us any feedback unless they happen to see it. On the plus side, the communications team could then be making outreach to get this ball rolling. So I'm going to make a motion. If it goes down, my feelings will not be hurt, but just for procedural reasons, I'm going to make a motion to amend the agenda to add an action item. Mrs. Adams, did you have something you wanted to add? Oh, that's fine. We can request. I'm going to entertain a motion to amend the agenda, which under our rules requires 5-member vote, to add an action item. Ms. Krejci.
I'd like to amend the agenda to add an action item to vote on the 2019-20 calendar changes tonight.
May I have a second? Ms. Mann, all in favor? That is unanimous. So the agenda has been amended to add that action. May I now have a motion to amend the 1920 calendar as described? Ms. Krejci, as a member of the calendar committee, we will give you the honor of the motion. Is there a second? Ms. Smith, is there any discussion? Further discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. Okay, so we can
Thank you,
go
Madam
forth and
President and members of the
communicate.
board. We absolutely appreciate you moving that item to this agenda. We absolutely appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, but don't go away, Mrs. Bechtel, because now we get to talk about the 2021 calendar, which is our next item of business.
I wanted to start this conversation tonight to thank the board for, over the past few years, really pressing the committee to spend the time examining the complexities of our calendar. We have had, over the last couple of years, some really deep, robust conversations about how that calendar is built and what we do with those usually 1 to 3 discretionary days. And I think that it has been really excellent discussion, and as we try to be representative of the teachers, the students, the parents, and try to combine all that to make the best calendar that we can. So I do appreciate that. For those folks who don't know, I do like to kind of go over our process again because we may have some new folks in the audience. We do schedule 187 days. That includes 3 snow days. I will remind people that we have a tighter calendar than any other district because generally districts schedule about 180 days, and we schedule 184 when you minus out those snow days. And that, when we're going from September to June, whenever the last Regents Day is, does create some challenges for us. We schedule 2 teacher contractual PD days that are not counted as student attendance, but we do that as a part of our contract. We schedule 16 days off as per the APSU contract, and 13 of those days are prescribed. We have to be in session, of course, for any testing and scoring. The State Education Department allows us to have 4 superintendent conference days. That includes, sometimes we call it Superintendent's Conference Day, but that includes your parent-teacher conferences. And those days do count as student attendance days according to New York State Education Department. And we do really try to align as best as we can with the BOCES calendar, as most districts do that for the most part with a little bit of flexibility here and there. The calendar committee over the last few years have developed these priorities. The first one is that no student attendance on election days in the interests of student safety and security reasons. We like to have a staff PD day prior to the first day of school in addition to the APSTA teacher preparation day. That is a contractual day that needs to take place before students attend. And then in addition, we'd like to have another day for professional development where we can get things up and running. We try to avoid end-of-year PD days, May through June, with one exception. And then each year, the committee considers any discretionary days with these parameters: the labor contracts, the calendar priorities listed above, the academic needs of students, and then maintenance of appropriate levels of staffing. Some notable items about our draft calendar that we're proposing. Student attendance would begin after Labor Day, although staff begins before Labor Day. We often start before Labor Day in our district, so this is actually a nice thing for us this year. I did want to mention that first day, which is, I believe, September the 8th, would be the staggered start day. That would be the day that all elementaries are in, all new students to middle school would be in, and the 9th grade at the high school would be in. And those are our efforts to help with the transition to the different levels. We moved the parent-teacher conference day to the week before Thanksgiving. The committee ran a survey with administrators about parent-teacher conferences, given my last conversation here on the board floor about whether or not we would dedicate 2 days to this. If, it's just a couple of different ideas. The half-day idea that I presented the last time really seems impossible in the climate now with the voting days, and we'll see how that goes, and maybe we can try that again sometime in the future. But what folks did want to try is to move it out from the day before Thanksgiving, because it is a day when people struggle to come in as they are trying to prepare. That's now, of course, a student attendance day, but we've put the parent-teacher conference on that Monday the week before. We have the half-day PD days next year to accommodate election days, and we did this for our families so that their children won't be in school, but staff will have that half day of professional development. So we did that twice in order to try to have a workaround on that. And that would be in November and April. We do a half day, but we don't have 3 half days. So we have a half day for students on June 22nd for K-8, just as we are this year. I think it's June 23rd. And then I think we really achieved greater alignment to the BOCES calendar with just a few exceptions. And we had the elimination of the 2 end-of-year half days at the elementary level, which I know that the board has sought for some time, and we can do that now because of the flexibility of the New York State Education Department hourly calendar, and that allows us some room there to make that happen. And, I don't have a little, there he is. And now Ms. Comerford and I are ready to take any questions you might have about the calendar.
So board colleagues, again, one at a time, pick your most important question first. Ms. Krejci.
So based on your presentation, I really feel very positively about the compromises you've made and the way you've worked it out. Unfortunately, the colors on the calendar draft you provided, some of them appeared to be not right, or they're just very hard to read. For example, the June days that I think should be Regents testing, they're colored pink. So I was wondering why we had like 8 PD days in June. But the question I had though was the 16th, November 16th, that day that's supposed to be a conference day, it doesn't have an asterisk to show it's a half day. Is it a half day?
November 16th would be a parent-teacher conference.
Yes, would it be a half day?
No.
Are the kids in attendance at all?
No.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. Thank you so much.
Ms. Wilson.
Along the lines of Ellen's question, I was wondering if perhaps the sky blue ended up swapped out with the peach. Perhaps can we pull it up on the
But before I do want to tell folks, this is a work document. Communications actually will have this after tonight's discussion, and it will look pristine. And I'm hoping that we can get that out to you in the SBU as soon as Jake is done developing that, so that you can see it a little bit more clearly. We always do the staff calendar, and we do a family calendar for clarity. So if you have any questions around what some of these days are, I can answer them, but this is not what our calendar is going to look like.
So Ms. Wilson, do you have a question that was brought on by that?
Ultimately, I was wondering if that was, along with Ellen's question, that the 21st and 25th were the ideal days for Regents, if those were being allocated for Regents.
The 21st
Which
through
month
June.
are you in? June.
Yeah, the Regents go from the 16th to the 25th, and the 7th is the New York State Science Test for 4th and 8th, or for next year 5th and 8th. No, next year 8th. Some changes there.
Dr. Chatur.
I had a question about May for Eid. Are we having holiday or not?
So Eid fell on May the 13th, and the committee discussed Eid at length. We discussed the fact that in future calendars, we're going to have to, we were always wrestling with days. We know that we have an established practice of having Yom Kippur off. The committee felt that they did not want to introduce a new holiday in our already challenging calendar. And so while we respect everyone's religious beliefs, we decided that given that and given the timing of where Eid is falling, those first 2 weeks in May, actually much of May, we have NYSESLATs, we have AP and IB exams for those first 3 weeks. I will say that the College Board also helps us out with that, in that they are repeating their May 13th AP day for, I don't know what day they'll designate it, so students can, without worry, can take that time to celebrate that holoday and not feel as if that they're at any disadvantage with AP exams.
I was going to do Ms. Mann, okay? Ms. Mann?
No, actually, can Ms. Smith go first?
Absolutely. Ms. Smith?
Thank you. So relatedly, and I'm sure you're going to cover this, but I just want to, for the record, get it stated. So we will communicate this out as well, especially the College Board piece with our families, and it's hard because I know how hard the calendar's working to help fit things in and board's priorities in, but I think we continually talk about trying to do something that more formally acknowledges these Muslim holidays for that community, and I just hope we can get to that sooner rather than later. So I do appreciate what you're saying. Little disappointed, but I think just as long as we're also able to communicate out that there will be no harm, no foul should your families take that day to acknowledge your holiday. So, thank you.
Do you mind if I just ask a quick question on that exact topic? Because someone asked me about this recently, and I actually looked at the attendance policy and the grading policy, and what the meaning of an excused absence is not clear and tight in our policies. And I think we should, as a member of the policy committee, I think we should take a look at that. We have what defines an excused absence, including religious holidays, but then it doesn't follow through to how does that impact the grading policy. So, for example, are you required to make up a class participation grade? I know this comes up in particular at Albany High in the gym, question of gym. Do you have to make up a gym day if you have an excused absence that day? And that would become exactly pertinent and on point for this question of Eid. If you had gym fall on that day, I'm told, and I don't know if this is uniform or specific to a teacher, that some teachers require kids to make up their gym day even if they have an excused absence. And so that seems problematic when we know we have a relatively large percentage of our population who will be in school, who will not be in school because it's an important religious holiday.
Do you want
for
those
them.
details in the policy or in the regs?
I don't know where they belong, but I think we need to look at it. I'm not trying to solve the problem now, I'm just trying to introduce the fact that there's a policy problem that needs to get looked at.
And with respect to Ramadan, just a comment too. It's not just students. We have staff who are Muslims too, so and they may want to prepare for their families and stuff. So,
Ms. Mann, are you ready now, or do you want me to go to Mr.
I am.
Amanyawi?
No,
Ms. Mann.
I'm ready. So the first is a question. Well, the first is a comment. I sat in for Ellen Krejci, calendar committee 2 weeks ago, and my goodness, you did a very. It was a great. It was awesome to be in that space. And it's a lot. So, Ms. Bechtel, I really appreciate the work that you've done on the calendar and the rest of the committee. One question that I had has to do with regions. If a student is scheduled to take a Regents and let's say it falls on during Eid, can they take that Regents another day? I know with the AP you can.
Last year, what the New York State Education Department did is they had a rating day when Eid fell on a Regents Day, and that happened last June. And they've just put a rating day in the middle of the Regents calendar in order to accommodate students. Regents are not, you cannot make those up in that moment. You can't come in the next day and say, I'm ready to take my exam.
So it seemed very purposeful, the fact that they, okay. And then
AP and IB, if you miss
yeah.
it, you can make it up.
And then if there are the elementary and middle school exams that students take, and it falls during Eid, can they be taken another day?
The State Education Department, based upon the act that they took with Regents exams last year, will not schedule a test on that. They simply won't.
Yep. That's great. And I also, one of the things I wanted,
Is this a second question? Do you want to wait and do your
this is
second?
actually a third.
First? Okay. Well then stop.
It's a
Let's
comment.
let Mr. So we let Mr. Amanyawi get a turn, and then you can come back to you. How about
Absolutely.
that? All right, Mr. Amanyawi.
Thank you. I know a lot of work goes into this, and I've been approached by several families asking me when school's going to start, so this is a good starting point. In regards to Eid, I understand as well the tightness of the schedule. All I would like to, I guess, input would be that students are not penalized for taking the day off, and that we do not stop considering it going forward. So it's something that should be considered in the next calendar setting agenda.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Did you get a first question? Okay. So I just have I have a question, which is about the parent-teacher conference, which is slotted right now for, let me get back to my draft calendar, for November the 16th. And I was wondering if the committee had considered November the 2nd instead, because I am always, and actually this is a two-part question, sorry, board colleagues. Have we ever looked at the attendance on these Mondays when we have the Tuesday off? Because I've been hypothesizing that Mondays where the Tuesday is off drives down attendance on Mondays. And we have a lot of history now. We've been doing this for several years that we're closed on Election Day, so I'm curious to know whether we've actually evaluated that. Because if my hypothesis is wrong, then it doesn't matter. But actually I still think it matters, because pedagogically it's just hard when you teach something on Monday and then the kids have a day off and then they come back on Wednesday. I think it would be better for us to have more contiguity. That might not be a word. Continuity, that's definitely a word. So my question is, did we consider November 2nd for the parent-teacher conference, which would give us a 3-day week and a 5-day week instead of the Tuesday off by itself?
Unfortunately, it's just too early in the month for the secondary, to get the full first quarter in, have the grades come in, and be able to generate the report cards. In fact, I spoke with Tricia Wolf this morning on this very issue, checking to make sure that we didn't even push it back too far with the 16th. And Tricia offered that we would be okay with secondary. It would actually be elementary that would be a little bit more problematic. But we have more flexibility at elementary, and so my suggestion was we could actually push that the due dates for elementary back a little bit. It's not like the secondary level. So my understanding is that's a doable day.
I understand. Thank you. Dr.
Quick add
Shore.
on to what Ann said. Instead of moving it up to the 2nd, what if we move it down to the 25th, the day before Thanksgiving?
Well, that's what we've done for years, and I surveyed staff, or I surveyed the administrators, and by and large, about 2/3 of them said, let's try to move it in the week ahead. Let's collect the data around attendance doing that, see if it's significantly different, and then, then plan for the following year. And I also wanted, while I'm speak to Ms. Savage's point, we did run a little analysis on those weird days, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, so it might be time to do it again. But I recall that there wasn't, it wasn't the worst on those kinds of days. The day before Election Day, it wasn't around a holiday period, it was just a random day off, that we didn't have that a great impact on attendance. But I will ask, and we'll look at that again. Actually, I might be able to do that myself now with their beautiful dashboards that we have. So maybe I'll it might take me a while to maneuver, because we're still learning. But we'll give that a shot and get that out in the SBU.
And I just want to make sure I understood you clearly about what you were saying about the parent-teacher conference. The administrators are interested to see if more parents attend. That's what the administrators were seeing. They think they'll get better attendance of parents if it's farther away from Thanksgiving because people are traveling or whatever. Okay.
And did Kent want to weigh in?
I was just going to offer that we've already created a document that displays the daily attendance rates for the past 3 years on a per diem basis, so we can easily calculate that.
Okay, does anyone have additional questions? A second question for anyone on the calendar? Ms. Mann.
So this is a comment. Attendance was a part of, having sat in that one meeting, attendance was a part of the discussion in terms of any changes, or even when school would begin, that was like a driving factor, and like, you know, do we start school here or here, and so forth. So, and you know, and some of our questions were helpful. They were clarified in the calendar committee, which I thought was great. So we were all kind of thinking the same way. So that was we're all kind of, yes, thinking the same way, making sure that our students, well, you know what I mean. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say. I have one more.
I just wanted to just take a moment to say thank you for stepping in for the calendar committee when Ms. Krejci was not available. We really appreciate your making the time to be there. Very much appreciated. Did you have a question as well?
So the last, and this is actually a question that I have. It has to do with, I know that there's language in all of our union contracts that talk about the actual days, that the federal holidays and things like that. And there are many school districts that have looked at Columbus Day, and they haven't changed it. They've just renamed it in the contract to Indigenous Peoples Day. And I don't know what that would entail, and I don't know if my colleagues would even want to be a part of that. And yes, it would be more symbolic than anything else. It wouldn't actually change the day, but considering well, history and actually what occurred, how do we go about, or how, well, I can ask you separately. I would really like us as a board to explore what it would take to change the name of that day, not to take away from any of.
So I would propose procedurally that we put that in the hands of the calendar committee, subject to Mrs. Adams having a different opinion. She's nodding in my general direction, to investigate what would be involved in that and to think through any potential consequences of that decision. Ms. Krejci.
I just had a follow-up question about the May 21 schedule, because I'm looking at the 3 days that have been proposed as the sort of snow day or emergency days, and I'm wondering, would there be some way we could move one of those days to, you know, maybe move the 27th and the 28th, for example, to the 13th and 14th, such that Eid could be, it would be a day like, oh, you said you couldn't do that because of the exams. That's right. Never mind. So I'll go to my other question I had, which was a little tangential, but rather than do a hearty breakfast, have you and the food services department given any thought to do like a grab and go lunch on that day?
Regulations won't allow us to do that.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
All right. I will point out that we have now used up the amount of time we intended. That doesn't mean we can't continue, but people should be aware of that. Ms. Mann?
Just an observation. I mean, typically before the spring break, there's like a Friday that's off, and that is not happening in 2021. And so I just wanted to, as we're talking about, you know, Eid and et cetera, I just want to look at the entire calendar, some other things that have been adjusted.
Yeah, that particular one is a change that used to be contractual with APSU, and in the last contract negotiation, we agreed with APSU that they would maintain the same number of holidays, but that would no longer be a prescribed holiday,
prescribed day, right.
Which gave us the flexibility to change it to a different day. Am I correct, Ms. Bechtel?
That is correct.
Okay. Right. Ms. Smith, did you have a last question? No, you're good. Anyone else? If not, we will come back and reconsider this in 2 weeks for adoption. Thank you very much for all of the hard work of the calendar committee. To those that are here and those that are not, we understand how difficult this is, and we recognize and honor the work you do to do it as well as it can be done.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us now to board goals. So I now need to flip back to a different screen to make sure that I am on point with the presentation. So there's a very, very brief presentation, which is mostly for the edification of the members of the public, because this is familiar to all of the board members because we have lived it. But over the last several years, the City School District of Albany Board of Education has been working very hard to move to an excellence in board production, board process, consistent with, of course, and I don't have this slide, so I'll just say next slide, Andre, that's fine. No, you want, oh, now I'm going to get to do the thing. Down to advance. I think I can do this. No, I can do it. I got this. I can walk and chew gum at the same time, I think. So, as always, everything we do in this district is consistent with the vision, which we have spoken about, the mission and the goals, priority goals of student achievement, quality instruction, leadership capacity, empowering our families, and partnering with our diverse community. But in that space, the board has very specific roles. And part of our goal in trying to become the best board we can be is working in a cycle of continuous improvement, which includes a board self-evaluation. Our objective is always to have excellence in board operation, which supports excellence in the district. That is what we are driving to do. We do that through an evaluation process using the New York State School Boards Association Board Self-Evaluation Rubric, which we each fill out each year and evaluate ourselves. We then have a retreat where we consider those evaluations and think about how we can improve our board practice. We did that in December of 2019 this year. We take input, obviously, from the board members and also from the superintendent, who takes input from the cabinet so that we get a reflection of their experience working with us as a board. And from all of that work, we develop a set of board goals. I want to make it really clear to people who are not board members that board goals are very different than district goals. District goals, which I gave us our 5 priority ones, are very broad. They are about the district, they're very general, they tend to be fairly intangible, they're abstract and long range, they're setting a long-term vision for the district, such as student success, right? That is a long-term goal. That is not a SMART goal, for those of you who are well-versed in SMART goals. District goals are implemented by the staff under the direction of the superintendent, and ultimately they lead to the superintendent's goals. As we all know, she has goals in her annual contract and her evaluation, and to the DSIP goals that are implemented by the staff throughout the district and the SEPs at each school. Very different from that is something called board goals. These are goals for us. They're about the board. They're very specific, they're measurable, they're narrow, they're concrete. They're done annually, and most importantly, they are things we specifically control. They are things that are implemented by the board directly or with very limited staff support. And so our draft board goals, which all of you have seen, and I'm going to ask Andre to switch us to the document that accompanied this presentation, are here available for us to consider publicly, although I know everyone has put a fair amount of thought into them privately as well. They're going to be up on the agenda in an attached document. I'm sorry, Andre. I'm going to go ahead. We have 5 primary goals. Goal 1 is leveraging board members' personal and professional connections with community partners. There are 2 sub-goals there: interacting with community stakeholders, especially those who influence family decision makers, such as members of the real estate community and the faith-based community. And also, that's item 1. Item 2 is connecting the superintendent to ways that students can access resources outside the district, including internships and scholarships. Goal 2 is, as is a very important part of being a board member, effectively communicating district priorities. We have for many years hoped to have a very clear message map for board members to work off of, so that we're all using the same words and the same language to talk about the priorities of the district. We have always wanted to videotape our board meetings as well as audio tape them. We don't anticipate getting to the point of videotaping them this year, but we have decided as a board goal to try during 2020 to figure out what would it take to get us to a point where we could videotape and make that available to the public. And thirdly, and this is a new idea, one that had not been, I don't think, presented as an idea before and was an excellent idea, credit to Ms. Smith, which is to develop a board roadshow to take to parent-teacher meetings and other similar entities like student government to help those stakeholders understand the role of the board and be able to differentiate between the role of the board and the role of the staff a little better. So that, I think, will be a very productive use of time. Goal 3, promoting student engagement. This is also something we've always worked hard on, but we're going to be more specific about engaging with student governments and student newspapers. Goal 4, engaging in meaningful professional development for the board, which we have done effectively, I think, for the last several years. But one of the things that we're trying to emphasize here is, as we emphasize culturally responsive education for the staff, doing board development work very specifically in that area. And also, We have a team operations manual that is in desperate need of revamping, and Ms. Smith has offered to take that on as, not that she'll do it herself, but that she will take on the driving energy of causing that to happen. And then finally, goal 5, which is a goal we worked very hard on over the last 2 years, which is to continue to expand our influence politically. When we talked earlier about many of those contracts, many of the contracts that were set aside and specifically noted as being admirable are coming through community schools funding, right? And that is one of the things that we've been advocating for legislatively, is an increase in and a sustaining of the community schools funding, which did come to pass in the early notes we have on the school aid for this year. It does look like there's going to be an increase there, so that's terrific. And so we are continually looking for ways to be more effective with our lobbying, including this year working with the Conference of Big Five Schools and increasing our relationship with New York State School Boards Association, including serving on the Resolutions Committee and moving that forward. So those are the board goals we've established for ourselves for calendar year 2020. Our intention is in June or so, halfway through the year, to have a check-in and see how we're doing on those goals, and to do our very best to make progress on each and every one of these during the course of the calendar year 2020. Sorry to talk so much. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or discussion? Let's do Ms. Smith and then Ms. Wilson.
Sure, thank you. This was good work on our part, folks. If you don't mind my saying so. I just wanted to see if I could get the board to entertain a friendly amendment, particularly around an area that I'm going to take some responsibility for, and that's in goal 4. In regard with the first bullet there around the CRE equity training. So there are some meetings that I'm looking at having, and it's almost the end of January, so I just wanted to push that off by a month to put February in there. But it doesn't change the spring-summer date. With regard to the second bullet, I said there January initially. I think and it's fine to stay there, what I'm really focused on here is some sort of ongoing way and mechanism by which to share resources. So I don't see it as a one-stop thing, but rather something that we will do continually. And I have a few articles that I will share. You know, we can also figure out how we want to make use of some of those things, but I want to at least have like kind of a bank of things, materials that we might find useful for us as we proceed down this work. And the other thing with regard to the manual, I initially had 2 dates in here, but I think I just want to leave it all at March 2020, and so I don't need an amendment there. So
Just making sure I understand, you want to change January 2020 to February in the first bullet, and then what change did you want for the second bullet?
I think on the second it's fine. I said, because my emphasis is on the ongoing part, and I know I did share some articles, but I really want to kind of set that up so we can like
have a bank of them.
Have a bank somewhere, yeah. So okay.
So maybe maybe we should make that February, and by February we can try and get the bank established.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll make those 2 changes before we bring these back for formal adoption
Yes,
in
ma'am.
2 weeks. Any other comment? Ms. Wilson, you had something?
I just wanted to state about the board goals overall. I find them to be stretch goals. I think that they are equally ambitious and attainable. And the ones with my name next to it in particular, I find that that they will promote many things, but primarily engagement with the community, promote transparency, and also increase our accessibility. We are accessible, but I would say increase the feeling of our accessibility overall.
And just to be clear, everyone's name was volunteered by themselves. No one was volunteered from the outside. These were self-volunteered. Any other commentary that people want to make tonight? We will get another chance in 2 weeks. Ms. Krejci.
Just to say, generally, I'm excited about what we're doing, and it was great the way we structured it to say, come up with something that you're going to do, you personally, was, you know, I like that level of accountability, and I'm looking forward to the things with my name next to them. I think they'll be exciting, and in general, we've got some great things going on.
So Ms. Krejci's alluding to the fact that I gave people dots in 2 different colors, one for dots of things that you liked, and one for things that you liked so much that you would put your own personal time into doing them. So those were your choices. Anyone else? Dr. Chator.
With regard to finding new opportunities for our students. You know, the reason one of the reasons I was, proposing that and I'm willing to champion that cause is we do a lot of different things in districts, and there's lots of things that exist which some people know but not all. So it'd be nice to have this other bank of all these things collated. So you're in the high school, you have career night, but okay, let's say 90% of our students get there. What else can they do? If everything's in one place, it makes those doors open for our students. More opportunities.
Anyone else on this topic? Okay, we will bring this back in 2 weeks. And now we go on to the primary topic for the night, which is the discussion of the 2021 budget.
You can watch and see. Oh, thank you. You can always reach across. Okay, back up one. So good evening, and we are so very excited to start our budget season. And at this time, I am so very excited to provide a little bit of background and the program overview with regard to what our budget process is, starting from a very high level with regard to the governor's office, going to the state office, and then actually looking at what we do here in our district. And presenting with me tonight is our Deputy Superintendent of Business and Finance, Ms. Kimberly Roaring, and so you'll get to hear from her a little bit later. As always, we start with our vision, mission, and goals, and the City School District of Albany aligns its budget practices to support the goals, and the identified budget items will align with our vision and our mission as we move forward. Just to refresh your memories, last year's budget, we were very excited because we were able to align and specifically present information that we were able to show that things that we value in our district, we actually align our resources to that. And so we've had a focus on our instructional framework. Last year, just a few highlights. We added a STEM secondary instructional supervisor. We've enhanced professional development opportunities for our teachers, exposing them to non-traditional ways of delivering quality instruction. We've looked at professional development for our assistant principals on a consistent basis with monthly check-ins with the assistant superintendents of instruction. We have included our parents on committees in a more purposeful manner so that we can get that input from our parents. We're also looking at stakeholder additions to, for example, our community roundtable, understanding those wraparound services for our students, building our community partners so that we have internships, apprenticeships, mentoring programs, so that we are able to partner with our diverse community and with our business partners. A little bit further back in 2017 and 2018, one of the first Board of Education and Cabinet retreats, we looked at what did we want to accomplish in the broader picture in terms of our system. And so we set the overall objective regarding our systemic process whereby we would work together to streamline our business practices in order to develop and implement so that we can provide a multi-year planning process in order to meet our district priorities. And so you've seen the progress of that over the past 2.5 years. And our budget process is no different. And so we are looking at how our budget process aligns with our established educational design, which focuses our efforts to support our instructional framework. And so just remembering the graphic that we've shared, our educational design is how we do business. At the core of what we do is our instructional framework. And we look at each of our divisions supporting what we do in our classroom. One of the things that we absolutely can control is the delivery of quality instruction. Everything else supports that. And so as we move into our budget process overview, I'll start with a very high-level look at the 2021 Governor's State of the State Education highlights and how they are connected to the work that we do. And then I will move to the New York State of Education Department Regent proposal, and then we'll look at what we do specifically in our district for our process. So the governor's theme this year is Education for All, and it's been divided into two parts. The first part looks at ensuring a strong start for every New York student, and the second one is making college more affordable. For the 2021 school year, the executive budget appropriates $28.5 billion in school aid, and an additional $826 million, which represents a 3% overall increase. This $826 million includes a reported $504 million in foundation aid increases, $50 million of which would be restricted as part of the continuation and expansion of foundation aid set aside for community schools. This foundation aid increase is achieved by eliminating funding for certain expense-based aids that would be rolled into foundation aid. So an additional $200 million is identified. An additional $200 million is identified as a new targeted foundation aid intended for high needs districts. However, this allocation is not distributed by districts. It is instead appropriated as a fiscal stabilization grant. As a result, the actual increase in foundation aid may not be as large as originally reported. The total also includes the remaining $72 million in potential reimbursement for expense-based aid that are not phased out and the $50 million in other programs. So know that this is still the governor's proposal. The second piece, making college affordable. This is important to our district as we look to expose our students to higher learning opportunities and provide equitable access to college and careers by removing systemic barriers which present challenges to their success. In part, these areas highlight college, high schools, and pathways to technology. The executive budget appropriates $6 million in new funding for early college high schools, $1.4 million to support the continuation of early college high school programs, which would include Smart Scholars early college high school programs targeting communities with low graduation or college access rates, and Pathways in Technology early college high schools. Please keep in mind that this is only the executive's proposal. We now have time, 3 months to be exact, to speak to our legislators and continue to emphasize our priorities in the best interest of our students. When we look at the Regent State Aid proposal, we are looking at $2 billion from for the 2020-2021 Regent State Aid proposal. This was from their State Aid Committee, which met on December 9th. Please know that this information is available as backup information. And while the governor's office presents the executive proposal, the New York State Education Department will share out their $2 billion state aid proposal. So just a quick overview with regard to the Regent State Aid proposal. You see the budget cycle calendar is listed there with regard to the dates that they will align with. Those dates, you'll hear how that impacts us when you see our timeline. You'll see that on this slide that we are looking at, the regents are looking at a foundation aid phase-in process, which increases over a 3-year period of time. Additional increases that they are proposing would look at expense-based aids and pre-kindergarten expansion and inclusion pilots. In addition, the regents are looking at additional resources to support districts in the foundation aid reviews and technical assistance to those districts that may need that type of assistance. So now that we have looked at the executive proposal and we've looked at the regents' proposal, let's see how this funnels down to our district. And at this time, We will look at the specific we will look at the priorities that we have within our district. We've shared those priorities out. We've reviewed them at cabinet and with our district administrators. Budget allocations have gone to our schools for review. We are looking at district administrators' professional development during October and November in 2019. We just held that where administrators were able to review their budgets. We did conduct a professional development with regard to potential carryovers and what their needs may be and how that impacts what they may request. And so building leaders were then charged with going to meet with their site-based leadership teams to get input, to look at how the money aligns with what their requests are and what their needs are. And then looking at, after the departments, and it's the same for our departments, so non-school-based personnel within the departments are able to look at their budgets as well. Cabinet members are able to look at their division budgets and make some adjustments with that. Our district administrators will then review their requests with their supervisors just to make sure that everything is aligning with their set plans, to make sure that everything is aligned with their data, because we are making data-driven decisions, and we want to make sure that what we are prioritizing at our schools, what they consider to be valuable, that we are ensuring that the funds are aligned in that manner. From there, there will be budget workshops with business and finance at the cabinet level, and then we will be able to review those budget requests at the cabinet level and at the superintendent level. So at this time, we're going to look more specifically at what's going to happen in our business and finance division, and so I will turn the time over to Ms. Roaring.
So in business and finance, we are in the process of preparing our rollover budget. We are assessing the academic and operational priority needs of the buildings and our departments. We will continue to review and revise this throughout the process. We are doing regular cabinet budget review workshops so that we have an opportunity to consider those requests and needs. We will continue to provide updates to the Board of Education as we move through the process as well. We have some variables in play right now and around our insurance adjustments, what our ultimate tax levy might be, and what our funding levels are going to look like. Lastly, we will present a final recommended budget to the board for adoption in early April. If we look at the budget calendar that was adopted last month, there's a couple dates I would bring to your attention. May 7th is our budget hearing, and May 19th is our budget vote day. Those are two key areas of opportunity for the public to provide feedback and participate in the process, as well as our regular meetings throughout the budget development process. When we look at a rollover budget, the assumptions that we made, this rollover will include all continuation of all of our existing programs and services, staffing at our current levels, as well as the benefits and salary obligations under our current labor contracts. It will also include continuing our contractual obligations. This rollover will, however, also include adjustments to some specific budget lines to fund our contractual obligations, aligning more with our 3-year average cost, and then making sure we're meeting our students' needs. The rollover budget does not include addressing mandates that require more resources or other items that might be essential for programming, health, and safety. Some of the primary cost drivers as we begin the process are salaries, debt service on our ongoing capital projects and projects that were completed, charter school tuition, out-of-district tuition, transportation contract increases, and benefits for staff such as our New York State pensions, health insurance, and payroll taxes associated with the salary increases. Variables that we're continuing to look at include state aid, which is usually finalized at the very end of March, bond payments and band payments as we look at continuing funding of our capital construction, health insurance increases, which we will be finalizing in March with our third-party administrator, retirements. We are reviewing those retirements that have been submitted to determine where we may have some salary breakage and or attrition. The tax cap will be submitted at the end of February, and then ultimately what the tax levy will be, which will be determined by the board when you adopt the budget in April. In looking at our next steps, we're going to finalize the district's priorities, make sure that we incorporate new information as it's becoming available, continue to review our projections, our estimates, and our assumptions, respond to questions that are coming in on that process and what those assumptions might be. incorporate any feedback that we receive from the board, community, and staff, make sure we continue lobbying efforts, and then prepare for the release of the draft budget next month to the board. Questions?
So what I'd like to do with the questions to start with is just to chunk them into two chunks. The superintendent spoke about sort of what's happening outside the district, right? What's happening at the state level. So I'd like to start by asking if anybody has questions about those topics, some of which will not be answerable yet, right? Because that information literally just came out 48 hours ago. 48 hours ago, I was sitting in the music teachers concert and my phone binged and there was the state aid runs and I was like, okay, do I look or do I not look? But it's literally been 48 hours since those numbers came out. So some of these questions about how these changes are going to impact us are not answerable, but getting the questions out is certainly okay. So let's ask first only questions about state aid, changes that are in the executive budget, what is the region's budget, anything like that that's on your mind. Ms. Wilson?
Thank you. So at the external level, coming from the governor's office and our legislators, I was just curious about, it's one topic really, but it's 3 subtopics within it. One being any sort of earmarked funds for our activities around Raise the Age. Also, any sort of investment that they would be making, especially with an emphasis on mathematics and technology for STEAM activities at the K-12 level. And the final thing is, I heard this last year, but it kind of got lost in the process, was the idea of a teacher pipeline in our state, and that would be more so a part of the education highlights or the college level, but mostly sort of either some kind of tuition forgiveness or service-based, but ultimately any kind of investment in that, or if they'll have a resurgence around that. And I know it's far too soon, but I'd like to keep those things at the top of mind, so to speak.
So I will respond at a very high level. The full report from the governor's office we're going to make that available. However, yes to all of those. Specifically, I will quickly turn to, there's funding that will be available through grants for gang prevention programs, extended day school violence, mental health in schools, mental health in younger at the primary level as well. Some of those types of things there are proposals to address those. And just keep in mind, these are proposals at this point.
And those sound like competitive grant opportunities as opposed to foundation aid bumps. Okay.
Yes.
Other questions about what's happening at the state level? I have one that I don't know if you have enough insight into yet. There was a strange quote about changing the progressive, I want to find it in the, it said, transportation aid, eliminate a regressive reimbursement aid ratio within transportation aid and propose a new tier of building aid for projects approved beginning in the 2021 year. So I'm just wondering if we have any backstory on what that means. I mean, the first part of that, which I didn't read out loud, talks about capping transportation aid subject to inflation, which I see as really problematic because transportation doesn't increase at the cost of inflation. It increases at the cost of fuel and other non-inflation tied things. So I find that problematic in terms of our legislative affairs, but I didn't really understand the second piece about a regressive reimbursement aid in transportation and a new tier of building aid. That sounded bad. New tiers always sounds bad to me, but I'm wondering if we have any more insight into those 2 items.
No new insight other than the first part of that, which says that the budget does not include transportation aid and building aid in these expense-based aids rolled into foundation aid.
I know that last year we were very concerned, and I believe NYSBA also, I don't remember what the Big Five did, on the consolidation of multiple expense lines into one just seems risky, since the purpose of these is supposed to be be reimbursable. So we'll be meeting at some point in government relations and figuring out how we want to prioritize the many questions we have about the way the governor could go here.
Madam President, if I may address a portion of Member Wilson's comment with regard to school leaders and teacher assistants initiative. So there are some leadership components to the governor's proposal, which include a master teachers program, master in education teacher incentive scholarships, Teachers for Tomorrow, teacher mentor intern programs. Those things are proposed.
Anything else about state level questions or things that we want to follow up on? Then we're going to move now to the district level. We are at the point now where, again, the executive budget just came out 2 days ago. We're not at the point with our budget where we can say, you know, how much, We're not at the detailed questions. We're just at the process level questions. 2 weeks from tonight, when we come in on February 13th and celebrate Valentine's Day almost together, we will be a lot closer to having, you know, something that we can register as a financial understanding of where we are. But this is really a top-level process and priorities questions. Anyone have questions for the team about the presentation, about what's going to happen in the district? Ms. Wilson.
I know you mentioned this at the last meeting, so forgive me for not remembering. When is the capital communication budget letter going out, if you know? Or has it not been decided at this point?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
That's not been determined yet.
Alrighty, thank you.
I know it becomes a driving decision about how we work things out when we come down to the wire, if we have to come down to the wire, which is always dependent on whether the state actually adopts their budget on time. So that's what makes that so difficult. I really appreciate the work that's obviously gone into this to date in establishing the process and working with the building leaders and the department leaders and having that iteration with them. We really appreciate the fact that you guys are doing that hard work. I think the lack of questions at this point is mostly a matter of wait and see and how this is going to play out, because we all know this is not going to be an easy budget year, but I think we also all know it's not 2007, right? Things could be a lot worse, but they can always be better. So anybody else? Wonderful. So I'm not going to say the words you all want to hear. Instead, I'm going to say I'd like to entertain a motion to enter executive session for the purposes of discussing evaluation of personnel. Ms. Smith, seconded by Dr. Chatoor. All in favor? That is unanimous. The board is now going to enter executive session. We do not anticipate returning to public session tonight. We will leave the executive session and then adjourn the public meeting from our executive session space. Thank you all.